I'm Dr. Barry, licensed psychologist, and here we talk about true crime and psychology. Thank you so much for joining. Let's hop right into today's topic. Let's go. Welcome. And I just wanted to let you all know we are not going to be watching any court testimony. So I have two prior videos where I sat through the au pair's testimony, most of her direct examination and cross examination. I missed where the state redirected her at the very end, but I went back and watched on 2 times speed. Her testimony was a little bit difficult to sit through. And so thank you all. I am so glad that I was able to watch it with you all. It would have been, I don't know that I would have finished the whole thing if I had just watched it on my own. And that testimony did get interesting. And so there are a few things that I wanted to talk about that I've seen people commenting about on different videos or even in my comment section. We want to talk about her credibility. Is the state basing most of their case on her? And then also, what is the defense's strategy with all of this? And really, it almost seems as though they're hoping at least one juror has some type of doubt and that maybe any holes they poke in what they feel was not a thorough investigation. From everything I've seen, it does seem like it was a pretty thorough investigation. But and then I do have some thoughts about Juliana's testimony. So we are going to start there. Let me know if y'all have questions as we go. Um, and we do not know. So Juliana has not been formally sentenced. So she has a plea agreement, but it's not finalized until after his trial. So she will be sentenced after the trial. And I wonder if Judge Penny will take into account any of the information. Now, I do think with the current day and age that we're living in, because with any type of immigration issue, because she is not a US citizen, she was here on a visa. I don't know if they'll fight her being deported. I don't know. I don't know if they will. And if they don't fight that, I do hope at least that she is not able to profit from this crime, from this situation, from this incident. And so even if we take her testimony at face value, and I have issues with some of her testimony, I don't think she's entirely credible, but I think what she did in her testimony is she might have minimized her part. Now, I personally, now y'all can let me know. So we're just chatting. I don't know for sure, but based on the personality characteristics that I've seen played out, and this is just my guess, like I don't know these people, I've never met or assessed them. I don't see Juliana being the mastermind. I don't see Juliana being the one that was telling him to leave his wife. Juliana was posting pictures of them on her social media. Now, they didn't clarify if her social media was private or not, but that was very interesting. So I personally did not observe that she had any issues communicating, but so her issues communicating is that she doesn't really enunciate. Like the way that she speaks, her words are kind of jumbled together. She can be difficult to understand at times. I also think that she, because the times that she sounded clear to me was when she was upset. She was very, very upset at times. And I think that the defense attorney Because I think at times she didn't like his question. So I don't think that she didn't understand the question, and I don't think she's good with dates. So I watched JD Lawyer Explains. I really like JD Lawyer Explains channel. He talked about his thoughts on on how she was prepped for her testimony, but I could also see the state not wanting to over prep her because the defense is claiming that her that she's that she has a narrative to fit the state's evidence, and that she was provided this evidence in her discovery, and that she just like made a story that fits the evidence that the state has. Now, I do think that a lot of the things that she said, so I think her and Brendan created that email account. Now I think because he was an IRS investigator. I don't know if he was into true crime, but he seemed to try to do a bunch of things to minimize getting caught. I'm glad that even with all the things that a person tried, so Brendan is innocent until proven guilty. From what the state has presented, and we get to wait for the defense to present their side, but it's not looking good for him in my opinion, because to me it's clear that Christine did not develop that fetish website. Like that fetish, she did not create that email. She had other emails that she used all the time, that she was not aware that Joe Ryan was coming over to the house. I also have a link to Joe Ryan's um his mother gave an interview with a local media station. So y'all know I am in Virginia, and this incident happened in Fairfax. I don't know if it's Fairfax County or just Fairfax, Virginia, but his mother gave a statement, and I think there might be a video of this. I am not going to play the video, but she pretty much just says he wasn't this, creepy fetish guy. She indicates that from her knowledge, he had never been aggressive towards any women in the past, and that but that he was okay with engaging in consensual activities. And she also described knife play, because that comes in this trial, because the the allegation of the state is that the defendant had the victim, Joe Ryan, bring like the rope, the knife, had him bring all of these items that then, Brendan is going to be like, well, he was trying to do this. Now, a part of that, because, we've seen the Walmart shopping video of the person purchasing the the crime items, or we've seen the videos of people in the murder aisle, but I don't know how they explain him hanging out in that McDonald's bathroom for 7 minutes, and him like being aware of all of the Ring cameras in the neighborhood, and him only communicating when Christine was home. Like, it really seemed like a lot of effort went into this to not get caught, and yet he did. And that's where I just wanted to make sure that that was very clear. Even if an individual is into BDSM or any kinky play, that there are safe boundaries. And I hope, if nothing, I hope that what people get out of this is that to be very leery if somebody reaches out, that this was not a good first interaction where you've never met the person in person. I mentioned a video call, but somebody mentioned with AI that somebody could potentially fake a video call. And so really meeting in person, and that normally one of those escalated where there's some type of content warning for, I'm just going to say R word, that any type of like R word fantasy, that's not going to be somebody's first interaction. That first you meet up for coffee, you talk, you kind of go through things, and that it's not all on Telegram messages and this phone call with an individual where their voice doesn't really match their picture. Now, he was probably trying to like not be rude or like, you don't sound anything like your picture, but this case is just tough. And his mom in this interview mentioned the fact that he really didn't like blood, and it's my understanding that he might have even had some jujitsu training based on this article. And like I said, I do have a link to that full article down in the description if people want to look into this a little bit more. His mother also just talks about the pain of losing her son and finding out that this was how he died. And that really, the allegation of the state is that Juliana and Brendan took advantage of really him kind of thinking that this was consensual and safe, but then Brendan tried to be the hero in the situation to come in and yeah. The reason why, so to me, when I was listening to Juliana tell her part of the story, it sounded like, to me, what she said is that Brendan did the pew pew, that he um, pew pewed Joe Ryan, and then a bunch of other things happened, and then somehow Joe Ryan was still alive, and then she pew pewed here. Now I don't know if that's like that part of it didn't, because I personally feel, these are my personal thoughts. I do not know this for true. I do not know this for sure. My personal thoughts is that do not, I think the story that Juliana was telling is the one that she wants to sell to the world, because that came up during her cross examination, that she is trying to sell her story. And that I think she's under contract or she's trying to negotiate contracts. And that when she said that she deserves to get paid for what she's been through, like the poor victim's family, like I'm glad there wasn't a big outburst. Excuse me. JD explains, so the Uvalde trial is going on right now as well, and there was a pretty big outburst by one of the victims' family members, which the judge was having to determine, is this going to create a mistrial? Like, I am so glad, if the victims' families, which I'm guessing they likely were, if they were in the courtroom, I would have had to get up and leave. I don't know if I was connected to this case at all, I don't know that I could have sat in the courtroom and heard her testimony, because, like I said, she just seemed to really downplay her part. And I know that she's saying that she, has remorse and all of those things. I don't know. Welcome, welcome. You're in Virginia too. Awesome, awesome. And so that is awesome. I love to collaborate with other creators. Paul and I are messaging, we're DMing each other to try to figure out what's going to work best for both of our schedules. And so there will be a reporting live for my sofa collaboration, and but that'll be maybe sometime next week. All right. I have some reports due. I know Monday is a holiday. I normally work that first holiday. I normally work MLK Day. That's a great day to get some psych testing and to meet up with a few people, and so I will be doing that. And then Sarah, I saw this. I noticed how she lit up when talking about the child. Yeah, especially the fact that the little girl was there. She did seem to be sad when asked questions about her relationship with Christine, but because for that period of time after Christine's death, and they were still living together in the marital home. My understanding of the testimony was that Brendan moved into her room first, and then they both moved into the master, because they showed pictures of her items in the master bedroom. And I think that's just in case the defense tries to be like, what evidence do we have that they moved in together? Even though the defense has agreed that that there was an affair. The defense has conceded that point. Why do the victims so it sounds like they had an open relationship, and so maybe that was something that they talked about. And so some people, and not details, but some people talk in general. I don't know. But I just wanted to share that, because when I share these videos, when I talk about cases, I want to be aware that the victims' families might watch, they might see these things. Now, yeah, all right. Let me know if you all have any general questions. Oh, cool. Nice. That's awesome that you'll get to connect with Surviving the Survivor. That's cool. I've been on that show a few times. Sometimes you'll find me in the chat. I was flipping between different streams, and I don't think Brendan is going to testify. I don't think, with all of his, I think he likes being the investigator. So he was an IRS investigator. He had a work, I didn't even know the IRS agents were given service weapons. But because he's just over there taking feverish notes. And if I was a psychological consultant for the defense, and I wouldn't agree to be like, for this type of case where I wouldn't agree, there's no amount of money they could pay me to give them advice. So I'll give it for free on the internet. His note taking, like, I could see him being the mastermind. Like, he's over here just almost like he's dictating what they're saying. Now, a piece of that could be that when taking notes, that might help him regulate emotions or stay focused or calm. But I do think he's trying to find holes, and his attorney is looking at his notes, and I think his attorney may follow up on some of the things that he's writing, but he's writing so many notes, so many notes. Whole year. Oh yes. So yeah, I'll definitely collaborate with Courtroom Confidential again. I loved connecting with Josh Ritter. So these are my Christmas pajamas. I'm pretty sure I got these from Lidl, and years ago. I don't even remember how long ago. Oopsie. Ooh, I just spilled my tea, and I will fix that later.
Tomorrow, jury selection begins in Fairfax County.
There we go. And so, yes. All right. Let me see this one. Dr. Berry, did you find it odd, as I did, that their strategy wasn't to put the au pair on closer to closing? So I do think they want the evidence. So I think they knew she wasn't going to be completely credible. Like, she's not great with dates. Now this happened, we're talking 2022, 2023, but because it's my understanding some of the planning started in October of 2022, and then I think the email account was created January 2023, and then the incident happened in February of 2023. But I think she's just a piece of the. I don't think the state is relying on her testimony to convict him. I think they have other evidence that that goes along with the story. I know a lot of people were upset by the amount of time that she got, and she might have agreed to a plea deal just in case the state offered him a plea deal. But to me, he was kind of the bigger player. I don't know if the state would have ever because this was his child, this was his wife. I don't know if the state would have ever offered him a plea deal. But it reminded me of my frustrations in the Harmony Montgomery case, where Kayla Montgomery, the stepmother, she was aware of what happened with the incident. She was aware of the details. She was able to help lead police, where her testimony really did help the convict Adam Montgomery. And and there were times where I thought her testimony didn't always come off completely credible either. So I don't think the jury is going to just listen to this. I think they're gonna take a look at everything. Okay. And once again, yes, the judge still has to agree to the sentence and that it's contingent. So the max I think is 10 years because she pled guilty to 2 counts of manslaughter. And so we will see what happens with that. I'm gonna have some fun cleaning up some green tea because it totally spilled. All right. Let's see. Let's see. Didn't want to miss. Yes, these are definitely pajamas. Thank y'all for the super chats. Um, so I don't think he's going to want to answer questions about, because also his lawyer can't suborn perjury. But if he says this is how it happened, his lawyer is going to be like, okay. But I don't think he is going. I think if he gets on the stand, that could make it worse. He doesn't come across in a like he doesn't. There were times he cried, supposedly, like he made facial expressions like crying. Kathy Gossip from Gossip Rumor and Innuendo, she said she zoomed in. She didn't see any tears. I don't know if he actually cried or not, but during the 911 call, he showed some emotion. But I agree with Kathy that during the 911 call, he's like, I'm an IRS agent. Like his comments on the 911 call seemed very odd to me. I do think that Juliana was um like I think she was distressed because she was not able to communicate with 911. I do think he was probably mad at her when she made that first 911 call. So after the pew pew of Joe Ryan, she called 911, but he didn't want police to be on the way yet. My understanding of the state's case, because Christine was still alive at that point. And so he has her hang up. And then it's my understanding that he ends up using the knife that Joe Ryan bought. And then that's where things get even more gruesome. Hey, Uncivil Law. Hey, Kurt. Thank you. Thank you. I dyed it blonde for June. And so to me, the defendant, the way that he was staring at Juliana at times, or the way that he kind of just glares at witnesses, and that just might be his face. You know what I mean? Like that just might be how he looks at people. And once again, I'll say it every single video when it relates to him. There's no such thing as a murdery face. No such thing. That people can look completely different and not. And there are other criminals that have tried, or people that have been convicted of their crime and they've tried to profit. And if for some reason Juliana did receive any money, I hope that the family can sue for wrongful death if at all possible. If at all possible. Yay. Welcome to everybody in the chat. Let me know if you all have any general questions. This case has just been, wow. I probably one of the most shocking parts of Juliana's testimony for me personally was the fact that Brendan's mom was paying for her lawyer. So Juliana could have had a public defender, but a public defender pretty quickly probably would have been like, hey, let's see. And her lawyer is because it's my understanding, even once Brendan's mom stopped paying, he continued to represent her. I don't know if he filed to, I don't know, like, because sometimes you can, I'm not a lawyer, but he continued to represent her after that, even after the funds stopped. Uh, but um, it it really, really is a a difficult case. He's also charged with child harm. So the fact that the 4-year-old was brought into the house and placed in the basement while they went upstairs and did the thing. I hope that she did not hear anything. I hope that she has no memories, but at some point she will understand what happened to her mom, what her dad was charged with, what Juliana, is now deported and not in her life. Based on the chat, it sounds like the 4-year-old, because she's now I think 7. So it's been a few years. She's now either 6 or 7 years old. And it's my understanding she might be with Brendan's mom, which that's for the family court, like that's for the families and everybody else to manage and figure out. If there was any type of CPS involvement, which based on his charges, I would guess the state is like they may be doing visits. There might be a guardian ad litem. There might be temporary custody and with a decision for permanent custody once his trial happens. And so um, we will see. A lot of people have also talked about the New York trip. So and y'all can correct me in the chat if I'm wrong. I think it was Brendan's mom, Brendan and Juliana and the daughter that went on this trip to New York. So Brendan, his mom, Juliana, and the daughter that went on this trip. And then that's when he started talking, according to Juliana's testimony, about wanting to get rid of his wife. And that's where the state had to like keep redirecting her to be more specific with his language. Why didn't he want a divorce? Because that was in the state's opening. But even in the state's opening, they focused on the fact that, hey, like, we're not just going blindly and listening to Juliana. Like, we have evidence that corresponds with what she's saying. And it's just it's super, super, it's a lot. Um Once again, let me know if y'all have any other general questions. There are other cases that I am following in the background. I also would love to hear about the prior au pair, if they're not still in the United States, because sometimes, especially with an international au pair, sometimes they find another family stateside that they live with, or sometimes they return to their home country. So I don't know what happened to that prior au pair that had been with the family. And also, Juliana says that really Brendan ignored her at first. And then at some point, they started an intimate relationship. And then it got to the point of dates into this like whole relationship. I'll share my thoughts on her letters and her complaining about her attorney. And I think the defense was just trying to add in that, like, she's not as innocent and sweet and like this gullible person that Brendan forced into, to agree to do this. I do think the defense introduced those letters to try to show the jury some of her character as well. And to me that was effective, but it didn't clear their client. I don't think Juliana could have done all of that by herself. And so like the only other person is their client, but like they're trying. They really are trying. And so somebody mentioned, I'm guessing Brendan sits back and watches. Then if he sees that she may be open, oh, okay, he'll make a move. Um, I don't know. And I don't, ugh. That's that's a tough one. Um, I do understand the reason why Juliana struggled with what's the word? With flipping on him. Because I had to remind, I don't know if it was when I was live or if I was in a different chat, because a lot of people were like, "Hey, if you lose your lawyer, you know that you can get a public defender." And that's where it's like, well, I don't know how acquainted she was with the US system. Um and sometimes people think, a public defender isn't going to be as good as this lawyer I have. Some of her complaints reminded me of Sarah Boone or other people that like wanted to have constant access to their attorney. Um, and then she did when the state redirected, because in one of her letters she mentioned that she was not happy with her attorney. But at the end of everything, she was happy with her representation, and so it it is what it is. It is what it is. Um, and I thought it was interesting that Juliana harped on the fact that he only got on FetLife because of to find somebody to do this, and that he had no interest in, because it almost seemed like she was saying he wasn't cheating with anybody else. And that's where I don't know, like I found that interesting, because there could have been and there's no evidence that there were any other affairs or that there was any other individuals that he was involved with. Um, but Juliana saying that, I was just like, how do you know that he wasn't with anybody? I don't know that he wasn't on the site before, but it is what it is. All right. Yes. Yeah. Uh, and she mentioned asking her cellmates for advice about the um, legal process with her story. But that's where I do go back, that I think the version of the story that she gave, I personally wonder, is that the version that she wants to sell? Because if there is a more sinister version, a version where, she was, you know, so like if one of my friends came to me and was like, "Hey, I want to do this crime, go along with it with me," I would be like, "No." Like, no, like I'm not going to just passively go along. And I think in the way she described her role, it sounded more passive, and that's where I wonder if she was giving suggestions and options. But I do think Brendan was like the main person behind it. Those are my own personal thoughts. I don't know that for sure. Okay. Yes. Yeah, she was 22 at the time of the incident. Yeah. Yep, yep, yep. Alright. She's 25 now. Yeah, like, and so that's where so this comment says, "Juliana strikes me as not too, like, plugged in." And, that's where I wonder if all of Brendan's note-taking, if that could like, if the jury is watching his behavior. Now, his behavior can't be a part of their verdict. Like, it can't be. Like, the jury has to focus on the law, they have to focus on the evidence, but, like, the jury, they have eyes, and they watch things, and I would just find it very interesting how many notes he's taking. I hope they talk about it after. I hope somebody gives, some interviews, but I don't know if they will. Um, Juliana was in a foreign country making $200 a week, not an hour, $200 a week. She was making 200. Okay, good. Yeah. You fixed it down here. I got it. Um, I do think that that is why the state likely did not offer Brendan any type of deal. I do think they're holding him more accountable because he's also charged with the child harm as well. Uh, yeah. Oh, so which part in Phoenix? I can let you know which part of the testimony to go back and take a look at. Court resumes on Tuesday. There have been 3 days of trial so far. I think was it 3 days? I want to say it's 3. I could be wrong. Last week was a bit of a blur. They had opening statements, and Juliana was on day 1. They had day 2, where that day was just all Juliana, and then day 3 was videos, pictures, a lot of that other evidence. I didn't watch all of it, but I've seen, I kind of went back and forth between things. All right. Yeah. So the thing with the $200 a week is that it can open the au pair up to potential harm. So that's where, because they are dependent and reliant on the family, and there's supposed to be boundaries with that. So they're supposed to have, because Juliana talked about having 2 days off a week. They can't work 24/7. Like, there are these boundaries that are supposed to be in place for au pairs. But in I think I don't know if it was my first, I think it was my first video talking about this case, I covered potential harm that can happen, both by the au pair and then by the host family as well, um, if things aren't done well. And so, yeah, because often that person, they're sometimes supporting family back in their home country. So whatever money is coming in, yes, they spend some of it, but they often send money home to their home country as well. Um, he tried everything, soundproof windows. He was figuring out who had Ring cameras. He supposedly, this is the allegation, he had Juliana not be like right in front of the house, just in case Joe Ryan was spooked off. Like, he really, the allegation is that he thought of everything. Um, and I think the defense is going to try to downplay that, oh, they had been thinking about getting new windows for a long period of time. Maybe they live in kind of a loud area of a cold. So I would love to have soundproof windows, just because you can hear people loudly driving by. No crimes. Just because, like, it would just be nice to have a little bit more soundproofing inside. But the allegation that he wanted to test how soundproof it was, because what wasn't said in that testimony, but I think they wanted the jury to infer, is that he didn't want the police to be called by the neighbors, or they didn't want, him and Juliana didn't want the police to be called prior to the plan being complete. And so, yeah. Yep, yep, yep. All right. Ah, nice. All right. So let me know if y'all have any last minute questions. Let me know if you all have any cases that you all would like for me to take a look at. I have been just catching updates on different trials. I did share, because I'm almost positive I don't always talk about cases before they come to their conclusion, especially if I'm just not sure if the jury is going to convict or not. And so I will often share verdict updates on the community tab. And then I love answering y'all's questions. And so if you comment on a regular video or if you comment, so not in the chat, but if you put the comment in the regular video section, and if you just have a general question. I can't give you individualized advice. I can't help you with your individual situation, but I think it was this past week, somebody asked for tips for travel. And they were able to say that their trip went well and that they were able to use some of the tips that were given. And that just, I like that we're not just true crime here. So that's a large part of my channel, is talking about cases and true crime. But then the other side is that mental health education. I also shared a video because I think it was over on TikTok. Somebody asked a question about finding a therapist, and they specifically wanted the therapist to be trained to treat pathological demand avoidance. And so in the United States, PDA, pathological demand avoidance, and what it is so some individuals on the autism spectrum or that are neurodivergent, sometimes there are these extreme triggers to like, if you just tell them, and so there, it's a very specific thing. Feel free to look it up for more information. But there are providers that are trained in how to treat it, and I just shared general tips of how I search for that information, and just shared a list, because that was a specific type of treatment. Because if the person just found a general family therapist, that family therapist might not be trained in or have an understanding of pathological demand avoidance. And so I like sharing those things. Has the gravedigger went to court yet? I've seen that one. That one creeps me out. Like, it's fine. Y'all, so I like talking about true crime, but I'm an incredibly scary person. I don't know that I've ever admitted that on stream. Like, I don't watch scary movies. Like, if things are too suspenseful, I like look up what's gonna happen online. My nervous system does not like, that's just so creepy. So there's an individual that was caught with he was arrested, um uh because I think there was like discovery of all of these I don't know, like it's a messed up case. But let me know if that case has started. If we want to talk about the psychology of why somebody, like, that's just ugh, I don't know. But we'll see. We'll see. Uh Wait a minute. Somebody was in a Facebook group with the guy? That is, was it the actual gravedigger, Jessa? That is wow. Very, very wild if it was. Yeah, he was literally caught in the act with them in his car, and so that is just, mm, but and then you just have to let me know what general question you have about it, but so there are cases that I'm following. I go live on Tuesdays and Saturdays, and I am looking at scheduling a collab with Paul. So reporting live from my sofa. Phoenix said that you saved the video for travel. Nice, for the next time your daughter is flying up for a visit. That is awesome. So I work with some people that have severe phobias or they have panic attacks, and they do travel with medication for anxiety if needed. Now, what they do is they try to use their skills. They try to do other things. Because I work with some people that to get on their first flight, they needed medication, but with therapy, they were able to like have less panic attacks, feel more in control of their anxiety, and they were able to find things that worked for them. Um, it was so funny to hear how many people need to be by the window. Those are like those of us that need control. And then I also mentioned, I think in the comments on a video, that the part of the plane over the wing tends to feel less turbulence. And then I rate landings and takeoffs. So if you ever see me on a plane and the plane takes off, I put up 10 fingers, and then the bumpier it gets, they start losing points. I know the air being bumpy isn't their fault, but I rate takeoffs and landings. And so you start with a 10, and then we just see where we go from there. Somebody mentioned needing help with flying to CrimeCon in May. And let me check to see if I have a longer video on travel anxiety. I do have a general anxiety video. Let me see um, if I have one specifically on travel. So I do have tips for coping with severe anxiety. Let me copy this. This video might be helpful. Oh, somebody mentioned crossing themselves during takeoff and landing. And the crossing, that can be so anybody that does tapping or one of that bilateral stimulation, so crossing the arms, that can be helpful. If you want to not speed, so I don't know, like that's I adore that you all get my personality. Y'all are the best. Um, yes, yes, yes. Yeah, and so the nice thing about some of those bigger flights is that they're bigger planes. So small planes, you feel more. So my husband and I went to Hawaii for our honeymoon, and that was probably the one of the longest flights I've probably ever taken. I have flown to Europe before. I flew to Japan as a baby and young child, but I have no memory of that. But on shorter flights, I don't sleep. But for a flight that's more than 5 to 6 hours, I probably would try to sleep a little. And there are those little comfort things that I think can help. But um and then just don't think about being stuck on the plane for like those amount of hours. Which is, I just told you to not think about the pink elephant. Like it's hard to not think about it, but those bigger planes, often you don't feel the turbulence. They often fly at like a higher altitude. I'm not my husband's the aerospace engineer. He'd have to tell me if I'm saying this stuff correctly. He does not watch my content, which is fine because I get to like, I don't know, he can probably hear me. Um um uh uh but and not for like a bad thing. It's just he's not into true crime, which is why I like chatting with you all. All right. All right. So we had our squirrel moment about travel. I Yeah, those itty bitty Airbuses, like you feel everything. Like if I look at the plane and there are only like 24 rows, one person on each side, I'm like, oh, it's gonna be so bumpy. And I pay extra for one up, one down. I don't like connecting flights if I can help it. You can't always help it. So flying to Hawaii, we did connect. I want to say in Atlanta or something. But if I can do a direct flight, I pay it. I'm going at one up, one down. Like once I'm in the plane, I want to go where I'm going. And I really started that after having my child, because once we get to the plane, I have some of my recent travel stuff with me. Let me just grab it. So like when I fly, I'm over here like lysoling down the seat and like cleaning the tray, and I'm wiping off the buckle. For me and my son, I like get my son all set up with all of his stuff. And I don't like doing it twice. Uh, I don't always go first class, and not because seat one A and one B sometimes don't have underfoot storage. So you want to be in two. 2 or 3. Often like number 4 if possible. Yes. I don't always fly first class. Um, yes. Oh. Yeah, so I have been on a flight with really bad turbulence, been on flights where, like, there's a storm or something. I love how calm the captains are because the captain is just like, "Hey, up." We have the seatbelt sign back on, and I keep my seatbelt on for the full flight unless I'm going to the bathroom, and I try to not use the bathroom if I can help it, like, so I try to go right before we get on the plane, and I go right after we get off. For those longer flights, you often have to, but yeah. All right. Yeah, so my husband, like, we disinfect the doors, the phone, the remote, the drawer handles. Yeah, we have a process for getting to the hotel room as well. Um there are no nonstop flights. Wow. See, I'm spoiled, so I have BWI. I never have to go that far north. So BWI is close to Baltimore, Maryland. I don't I also have, Dulles International, which is, I think, in Arlington. There's also Reagan, which is in Alexandria, and then I have Richmond if I have to. I rarely go to Richmond. I rarely go to BWI, but I check all of those airports. Does anybody do direct? And if I do have a layover, I try to make it at least an hour and a half. But yeah. All right. Yes, yes, yes. Yes. All right. So, so glad to get to chat with you all today. I will see you all no later than Tuesday. Stay tuned to your notifications just in case Paul and I set something up for earlier. Once cuz normally we go live through his channel. He replied, "No court Monday." Yeah. Okay. So Paul and I are still figuring it out. I just checked my notifications. We're still figuring it out. But I will let you all know. I hope y'all have a good one. Bye.